here. So we have one time SCV, that's exactly what we want. And then our Zerglings are going to die. Nice. Cool. That's exactly what we wanted. So we saw 10 Marines, 3 Marauders, and 1 SCV, and they disappear when the vision is restored. Nice. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Artificially Intelligent for another live coding session. So today what we're going to work on is a mechanism to remember where the enemy units are after we've lost vision on them. This is kind of similar to the snapshot that we have for buildings. So for example, if I take my own unit and have my vision, when I see a building and I lose vision on it, we still know where it was, probably because buildings don't move, except for Terran buildings, of course. But this isn't true for enemy units, and by units I mean units that can move and not buildings. And this would be very useful to know because sometimes you would push into an enemy space, there's a siege tank in siege mode up a cliff, and well, you would like to remember that it was there a few seconds ago. So we're going to implement this. Now I already have useful software for this. So for example, I have a units tracker which takes care of tracking all the neutral, owned, and enemy units. So basically all the units. And the way this works is on every frame, I take the game state and then I put the data in the neutral, owned, and enemy units, and I detect that they die. So in my units, for example, it implements the I can die interface, which basically allows me to notify any part of my software that is using a unit to tell them that the unit has died and that they should dispose of it. So I already have a way to tell anyone in my software that a unit dies. I just have to change the way I handle dead units, because right now I'm only really tracking my own units. So I didn't know in the API where to find the data that tells me that a unit died. So how I did it is just if I lose vision on my own unit, it probably means that it's dead. And the only exception to this rule is drones going into extractors, because they do disappear for a moment. Here we have 3 drones, and the drone stays into the extractor for like 1 point something seconds. And so to counteract this, what I did is, in my own unit, I just keep track of when the unit was last seen, and I have a death delay which is 0 by default. For my units that go into extractors, and I know that because I assigned them to the extractor, then I change their death delay to be slightly longer, so I know if I don't see it for 1.415 seconds, I know it's probably still alive, and then any longer than that would be considered dead. Now this doesn't work for enemy units, of course, because I often lose vision on enemy units. And so what we're going to use instead is a part of the API which gives us an event field which contains dead units. This event field is null, so it doesn't exist if there's no dead units on that frame. And otherwise it's going to contain the unit tags of all the dead units on that frame. So I can use this and go look into my units and just consider them dead. The only problem with this is that it only gives you the information about the current frame that you're on. So if, for example, you've missed a frame, well, you will not really know about it. So I will probably still keep the last seen mechanism to still have a fallback. For instance, if I missed a frame because for some reason I had a lot of computations on that frame and I lose sight of a unit, for example, I don't know, 5 minutes or some long time, then I will consider it dead and dispose of it, and if it ever comes back into my vision, then I'll consider it alive again. The second problem is when we run on the ladder, for some reason, the effect of our actions are only seen on the frame after we sent the action. So if on frame 0 I send an action to a drone and I ask it to build a spawning pool, on frame number 1, which is the subsequent frame, I will not know that I sent the action. I will only know it on frame number 2. I don't really know why that is, but this is very problematic because on frame 1, seeing that I have no unit that's going to build a spawning pool, I might try to make another one. And so the way I went around that is just to run on every second frame. So if we look into my program, here I have a game connection and I specify that I run every 2 frame. And so here we said the event only contains the dead unit IDs for the units that died on the current frame. So I will have to probably accumulate this data so that I remember the dead units on every even frame or every frame that I don't run my bot, so that when we get here we can do the proper adjustments in our code. The other thing that I want to do is I don't want to consider the units that I lost sight of as kind of active and like dangerous units, but I do want to remember where they were last seen so that I can do some specific logic and be able to decide if I want to include what we'll call ghosts. So I'll decide if I want to include ghosts into consideration or just use the units that I currently see. So we'll probably have other lists here. So enemy units would be all the units that I currently see, and maybe I can add ghost units, which are enemy units that were last seen somewhere and that I don't have a confirmation that they moved. So for example, if I have a ghost, if I had a ghost here, then it would stop becoming a ghost if I ever see this area and I confirm that the unit is not there anymore. And I will probably also want to have a list that would be a memory of the enemy units. So if there's a unit that I have confirmed is not there anymore, it still exists, right? It's probably somewhere and it does count. For example, if I want to know the enemy's force, I know I've seen a bunch of Marines there, then I can remember that I know that my opponent has at least that many Marines, but I don't know where they are. So I will keep them in memory. And then maybe after a long delay, as I mentioned previously, I will manually kill the units because maybe something happened. It's very unlikely that something happens to them, but we never know what can happen in the fog of war. So let's start by adding these lists. So I will have, I'll call them ghost units, and I'll probably only do this for the enemy units. This can happen for neutral units. Sometimes there's like cleaning bots or like animals or whatnot. Don't really care about them. And the other neutral units are considered, they have the same logic as buildings. So for example, minerals, they get snapshotted, so we have all the data we need for neutral units. And as I said, my own units, I'll keep the logic that I have right now. So we'll do ghost enemy units and we'll do memory enemy units. I don't really like the name, but we'll find something. All right. So next is in the part of the code where we handle dead units. So I played around a bit with the API raw-data.event.dead units just to understand how it works. And I played a game and I just tracked, the display is weird here. Anyways, I just printed a success whenever I detected that the unit died and that the API also detected that the unit died. And sometimes I would see like I lost vision maybe, or the supply depot died, but the API dead IDs did not contain the ID. So this could be the two things I mentioned earlier. Maybe we just lost vision but the unit is still there, or that it died on an even frame, so I didn't get the data about it. In the case of buildings, since we have the snapshots, it's probably that it died on a frame that we didn't run. So we'll tackle this at a later time. Here, what it did previously is, this is the list of all the units accessible by their tag that I currently know of. And I decided if they were dead based on the last scene of that unit. So if they were my units, I killed them. This is because I can confidently track the units. Same for the neutral units. So this is useful to know that the mineral patch has disappeared. And then I basically, before, I did nothing for the enemy units. I just removed them from my list of units. So we're going to be doing something a bit different here, because I still want to remove them from all the units. However, I will add them to Ghost and Memory, probably. So here, we'll assume that the API has been accumulated, and then we'll fix it later. So here, in any case, we'll always be doing this. So we'll always remove them. Now, if the unit is truly dead, we'll trigger that it died. So for example, let's just remove all that. So if the unit is truly dead, I'll do this first, because if the API tells me that the unit is dead, no matter what logic I might have to consider them dead or not, the unit is really dead. So I'll do it first. If it's dead, it's dead. Then I can do some other logic. There's one case where the unit dies, but the API doesn't tell me so, is in the case of Zerg drones. So I'm playing Zerg, obviously. Whenever you build a building, your unit becomes the building. The ID will be different, so the unit really dies, but it wasn't killed per se, like it morphs into a building, and so the API doesn't seem to tell me that it died for real. So I still need this corner case here, and maybe I don't need it for the neutral units. I haven't tested it, so we'll keep this here, and then here we handle ghosts and memory. Actually, I went a bit too far here. Alright, so if on an API frame it was reported dead, we'll kill it. And if, for example, we missed the frame that it died on, and then at some point we decided that it should die, then we will kill it, remove it, and then here deal with the ghosts. So for isDead to work the way we intended, we're going to change the death delay on only the enemy units. This way we keep the same logic for my own units, which works perfectly well. So whenever we have a new unit that is not self, not neutral, that is an enemy unit. So in this part of code, it's all the new raw units which are not already tagged in our stuff. So this is basically new units. And we've already, here we converted into a unit in my code. So my unit class here, which takes the unit from the API and implements some other logic on top of it. So the new unit is my own unit. So I can go in here and change the death delay, which we're gonna set to be something. So we'll go controller, and I think I have seconds to frames here, and we're going to say, I don't know, 5 minutes. Then it's probably dead. We'll put that in a constant. It's going to be this. So what that does is the enemy unit is going to be considered alive until the API says it's dead, or after 5 minutes that I haven't seen it. Now if we go back in here, we will need the difference between the units that I currently have and the unit reported by the API, because I will want to remove any unit that is not currently visible from the units by tag, but I will put them into ghost or memory. And I only want to do this for enemy units. So let's get that that diff. Alright, so this gives us all the tags of the units that are no longer there. Should probably filter just the enemy units. All the units which are enemy units, we just take the tag and we exclude any tag that are currently known. So this gives us essentially the enemy units that are not in vision. So if the enemy is dead, we remove it from there. We can remove it from the ghosts, because this is really, it's dead, so we remove it from everywhere. We're going to change these. They're lists, which if you want to remove by accessing a specific unit in the list, you have to go over the whole list, which is not super efficient. So we'll go with a hash set instead. A hash set allows you to access the unit by its identity or its key or reference. So it's going to be much faster to remove, and also I think I can do that without fearing any error. It returns true if it was found and otherwise false. We don't really care, right? So if it's in there or not, just make sure it's not after it's dead. And we'll probably initialize it as an empty set, like so. Alright. Okay, so that's done. Next up, actually these are dead units, which means after this step, any unit that's still in units by tag should be a unit that we remember, but it's not dead. So if they're not in the raw data, then it means it's a ghost. This is the IDs. And our actual units. Alright, and for efficiency's sake, we're going to make this into a hash set. So checking if it's in the list is going to be super quick. Cool, so now we know all the enemy units that are not currently in vision. We're going to do three things. We're going to remove them from the units by tag, but we don't trigger the unit that died, which I don't know if we need to. Right now, obviously I didn't use this mechanism for enemy units, so it doesn't really matter. And in truth, they didn't die, so I'm not sure. I'll put a comment here to remember that I should probably do it, but for now we won't. So we just want to remove them from the units by tag because we don't see them. We don't want to consider that they're there, but we'll add them to ghosts only if we currently don't see their position. So now I'm not sure. I think I'll always add them to memory. This way the ghost is going to be a subset of memory, so I don't have to, anytime I want to use the memory, I don't have to concat with the ghost list, so I can just use memory by itself. So we're going to do this for each enemy units here. Enemy unit. Oh, I'll rename this. At this point, it's an enemy unit. We add it to the ghost and we add it to memory. So this is quick. Memory enemy units. Add enemy unit. Yeah, that's fine. And then we will have some condition, after which we'll add it to the ghost. Now this enemy unit gets updated every time we see it. So the current position is the last position that we know for this unit. And we have a visibility tracker. And I can check if it's visible. So we're just gonna do this. So if it's not visible, we add it to the ghosts. So for example, we see a unit, it goes into fog of war. We're gonna go through here. We will not have it into the raw data. So we're going to remove it from the tags. Since we don't see its position, we might think it's still there. The only thing that we need to do is go over the ghosts. And then if it is visible, then we remove it. So if the ghost enemy unit is visible, we remove the ghost enemy unit. So this, we'll call this erase ghosts. I should probably start breaking that code down into methods. It's pretty big. Instead of putting comments, yeah, let's do some code cleaning. So private void. We're going to just mention here the exception or the corner cases. So cool. I also forgot I want to do this just for the units, not for the buildings. So I should probably exclude everything that's a building. Well, for dead units, no, sorry. For dead units it's fine, but for remembering the units out of sight, we'll do this. So just the enemies. And we'll check enemy unit dot type. Oops. So I have a list of all the buildings. So all the units that are not buildings. Hopefully that includes all the units, except I've put the flying, like the flying barracks and stuff for the Terrans. They're considered buildings because they are, but when they're flying, they're more like a unit rather than a building. So if I go in Terran buildings, I have like command center flying, orbital command flying. I'll add a note for future me. This is probably going to cause issues, but I can't really confirm if it's a real issue without further testing. So for now, we'll assume I won't change this. We'll try to keep the changes to a minimum, and then we'll see how that behaves. In worst case, they're going to die after a couple of minutes. They're never going to be added in ghosts or memory. Interesting. Problem for future us. So Terran flying buildings should probably be a unit instead of a building. Yeah, because they can't produce anything. They don't really behave like a building, except that they can become one. Interesting. Let's try not to forget about that. Probably will. Okay, so remember enemies out of sight. We just take the real units. I'll say currently visible units. How about that? That's all the units except those that are currently visible. Good. I need to do a to list here. So this is an error I made a couple times. So if I don't do a to list here, it's a C# thing, I guess. I don't know if other languages have that, but this is an enumerable thing. So I can enumerate it, but then I'm going to mutate the collection. So I'm gonna change the contents of units by tag. And what happens is you cannot enumerate something that has changed. So if I remove something while I'm enumerating it, it's just gonna break. So by doing a to list here, essentially we're creating a copy so I can remove it safely. I broke my code in a couple of places, not knowing this particular thing. So moving on. Um, this would be update unit. Logic is pretty simple, so we'll keep it as is, and then we can do handle new unit. Like that. A bit easier to read now, huh? So we update, or we handle the new units, handle dead units, and we update all our lists. This is some init code. This is more of a debugging tool. Each map has like different unit types for like breakable rocks or even mineral fields and Vespene geysers. So just to make sure I don't forget any IDs, the first thing in the game, like basically my first logging, is the neutral units that I don't know about. So this way I can add them in my code, or at least I'm I'm aware that I don't know something about it. Yeah, I can put this in a method. That's there we go. And this can be static. Cool. So what we have here is essentially this is where it's these two methods are the important ones. We have our ghosts and we have memories. So what we can do now, if we want to test this, technically we didn't change anything, right? The logic should not have changed. Oh, never mind. The logic's changed slightly because of that. We'll still know about our units that died. That's not an issue, but we won't know about enemy units that died if they died on a frame that we don't run on. But other than that, should be the same. So we're gonna fix this. I guess we can commit that. Alright, so now what we need to do is go into the game connection. Close everything. And in the game connection, that's where we run our code. So here we run every 2 frames. So only on every 2 frames do we run all the logic to update the controller, the units, run the bot, and collect the actions. We also have this performance debugger. So the purple text we see here, which just gives a recap of like how much time was spent in which portion of my code. So for example, the controller, what it does is parsing all the state data, and like the units tracker is part of the controller code, the visibility tracking, all the game data related code is in the controller. And then the bot is more like deciding what units to do. The action is the part that submits the actions, and then debugger. I disabled it on the ladder, so if I see a number that is not 0 here, something's wrong. Yeah, that's a neat tool because I had some performance problems at some point. So yeah, the whole thing is this new observation is where the controller will go update. So we'll probably add a method to be something like accumulate data or something. So if we're, well, this is a big, probably put this in a method. Like that. And we'll call it like this. Actually, I don't think I have much logic to run, so I'll just do it like this: accumulate frame data, which would be a new thing on my controller. So just next to new observation, I'm gonna do something like that. It's gonna need the observation like this, and I'm gonna have a name that's a bit more similar to new observation, so I'm gonna do something like accumulate observation. I'm gonna do something similar to this. So those who need accumulating, and it's only going to be the units tracker. And I'm gonna add an interface for that. And it's going to have a method that is actually just this one, but with a different name. Like that. And I'm gonna go into the units tracker and have it implement the I accumulate, which I didn't name properly. I need accumulating. Like so. And implement the missing methods, which I'm gonna put just over the update method here. So in my controller, there you go. So accumulate. What we will want to be doing here is have a field for the dead unit IDs. So in here, we're going to be doing, do I need it to be a hash set? Sure. So we're going to do something very similar to this. We're gonna go for each thing in this. Actually, if this is null, we have nothing to do. Otherwise, we can't do that. And this is dead unit ID. And we add it here. Now, when we do the update, we're gonna call this the observation. So we run the same logic. This would get, the IDs will get added to this list, and then instead of using that here, what we can do is instead use this. Well, actually, I don't even need that. I could, let's just pass it on here. And then we clear it after we've handled it. I'm just debating if I put side effects in my functions or not, because they already have side effects. So I can remove this, do just that, and then clear it. There we go. So with just that, in theory, we will be adding to the accumulated dead unit IDs list on, this would run on every frame. And then when we update, we also run it. This probably, maybe I could accumulate in the game connection. I could probably just run this on every frame all the time. Let's do that instead. So we accumulate, and then we update, and then we get that. So in theory here now we should really see the dead units as they are, and we could start actually printing the ghosts, and we could add like debug info. Actually, I will do it in my bot. So Sajuk here has some debug methods. So debug ghost units. So for we're going to do for each units tracker, oops, tracker. enemy ghost units. Enemy ghost unit. We're going to draw a sphere on that unit, so what we could expect is once it's in the fog of war, there's going to be a lingering sphere after they've left vision, and the sphere should disappear if we ever see the tile again. So we're going to do program.graphical debugger, and we'll add a sphere. And I think I have an overload for no unit. Oh yeah, I do. Haha. And we'll add a color. We could have the color change to be kind of a gradient, like very bright when it's new and then gets darker if the unit has been unseen for a long time. That makes me think, if we see a unit, we should remove them from ghost and memory. I'll just put a color just so that I have something here. Let's just go with red. Alright. In the units tracker here, enemy ghost units, whenever we update or add a unit, we're going to remove them from the ghost and memorized units. Alright, so this needs, okay. So when you put a reference here, so unit is like an object that I create. To be able to get it in the hash set, we'll need to know about the reference, so the unit here. When they die, they will be removed from units by tag, so I will lose the reference to unit. And when they live again, if I want to remove them from the enemy ghost unit, I can't leverage my hash set. I'll have to check everything in the hash set to compare the tags instead of the reference, because I'm going to build a new unit with the same information as before, but it's going to be a new unit. And that is kind of why the units by tag is a dictionary. So we're gonna give you the same treatment here. This should be a dictionary instead, and it's gonna make stuff a bit more complicated, but typed languages, yay, it tells us right away. Remove unit.tag, remove unit.tag, and then we add it. When you index like this is a setter, so if it's already in there, it's just gonna override it, which is fine, probably. If it's already there, it's probably a mistake at this point. Not sure if I wanted to break so that I know that it is a mistake. It would be smart just to know about it. So I'm just gonna there we go. Now when we add or update, I don't know if we need to do it when we update because we remove them, so they will always be new. Yeah, I think it's fine here. So whenever it's new, if it's yeah, we could do it only for the enemy units. So if it's a new enemy unit, we're going to do enemy ghost units dot remove. So every time we have a new unit, it's obviously not a ghost, it's obviously not memorized. Okay, what did I forget? Here's a dictionary. There. Then we can come back to here and then do this. So we add a sphere on the unit, and we could probably print some text, maybe just say which unit that is. It might take up a lot of space, so we'd like to print the... I have an override on the unit, so when I print a unit like this, it's gonna say its type and its ID. In this case, I'm not sure I need to see the ID because it's a long number, so it's gonna take a lot of space on the screen. And world position is going to be the enemy ghost unit at position. And this needs a point to point. The text size, we're gonna make it small. The default is 15. Let's just go with 13. Default color is yellow. I think it's fine, it's easy to read. And oh yeah, the text would go on the ground and the sphere would go around it. Maybe I want to print the text on top of the sphere as if like the sphere represented the unit and then the label would be over the unit, because oftentimes I will print stuff on the ground too. So maybe it's interesting to do something like position that translates, and then we get a z translation of, now that's the annoying part, the sphere default size when I do the unit is going to be the radius of the unit. This is the radius of the sphere, so I'll translate it like this. I could make a method that prints the unit like that, so maybe I want to use it for my own units or something. Because as you've seen, sorry, I have a bunch of methods that I made in my graphical debugger. So I have like all the code to just print a text or a text group. I can print some grid spheres or grid squares, add a sphere based on a unit or a position and radius. Bunch of things in here: a square, rectangle, some lines, links. So, and a path. So I could add like, I don't know, maybe like add a unit which would do exactly this. Right, so that sounds good. A sphere for a unit with a small text as a label, which is the name of the unit. And now for the memorized units, I'm thinking just list them out. We could write somewhere in a corner of our screen. Is this a game? Oh, that's a replay. We could print in a corner. I'm using the left side for like bot management, like there are build requests. Could probably use the right side for this. I'm just not sure how far to the right I need to go. So it's a virtual position. I think it goes from 0 to 1, being like percentage of the screen. So this is slightly offset, like there's a kind of border. So we'll try to guess some space. So here we're going to maybe just have a list so we can count, like I have 5 Marines and 2 Marauders or something like that. So we'll go with a dictionary unit count by type. So this is gonna be a dictionary of the type. I could just have it like the name of the unit, so it's gonna be a string, and then the unit count, it's gonna be an int. And then this would be the units tracker, and then the memorized units. I can go with just the values. And that's like that. Cool. I think there's a 2 dictionary method, or oh yeah, I could do a group by. Yeah. Let's be some cool link you kids. I think I can go group by. Yep. And then these signatures, man. This is probably just gonna be a unit and unit dot. And then program.graphical debugger add text group, and then I have my text group. Now I don't know what size that's gonna be, so let's just try to guess a number. 0.95. I don't know how large that is. So we're gonna see if it fits onto the screen. Is that gonna work on the first try? Not sure. Probably not. Hopefully it does, but let's see how it goes. Cool. What is this? Why is the region tracker not happy? What is this? Oh, right. Okay. I don't know why the editor doesn't tell me this. This is my bad. So we know run. We run our bot, which is an async method. So we run it in parallel and then a bunch of stuff happens at the same time. Type void is not awaitable. That's why. So I don't know. Maybe you know. If I were to return a void from this function, how would I await it? Since you can't await it because it doesn't return a task, but then what's the point of putting the async keyword next to it? Let me know if you know in the comments. Curious. But yeah, this should definitely fix fix my stuff. A nice split. Which means everything is working so far. I don't have, oh yeah, so I will be printing some text in here. Right now there's nothing. I should put a title probably, so we don't see it, but I should probably offset it so that it doesn't hide the Vespine and population count. And the game is running in real time, which is gonna take a while. But let's add a title so that we at least see where it is. And maybe we want to add to this the enemy units count. So include like all the units we don't see, but also those that we do, which would be more accurate, like kind of an estimation of the enemy forces. So it's all the memorized units and also the enemy units grouped by typed with a title, estimated enemy forces. There we go, estimated enemy F. So we need way more space, but the vertical space is fine. And we'll just wait until we actually see some units. Here, so we have one-time SCV, that's exactly what we want. And then our zerglings are going to die. Nice. Cool. That's exactly what we wanted. So we saw 10 Marines, 3 Marauders, and 1 SCV, and they disappear when the vision is restored. Nice. Well, that seems to work. 8 time Marines, that would mean we killed 2 Marines. Hard to say how many we've actually killed, but at the end of the game, this should probably say 0 everything, because we will have killed everything. So we'll know if our count is tracking properly. For the dead enemy units, that should be always true. Oh, I like that we see like SCVs. So Marauder and Marines, oh, they're in our base, so maybe it won't be 0. But there's, what, 6 Marauders in there? That seems proper. And yeah, as you can see, my roaches don't care if the base is under attack. We're not defending it, but roaches doing some dance. Oh no, the screen is... the end screen is hiding. We can see 3 Marauders, 2 now, and no Marines. So I think the tracking is good. There is some SCVs in there. Not sure what you guys are doing. Oh. Okay, they're 100% trying to kill something that doesn't exist. Interesting. Well, I'm glad we've looked at it till the end. They're trying to kill whatever these 2 buildings are. So same problem for Protoss. So we'll just go ahead and monkey patch it. Oh, this is super annoying. If you see what it is, please by all means, tell me in the comments down below. Maybe I'll see it later on. There must be something that I do wrong, but okay, I guess I can do it here. We'll need units returned by the API. So we'll get the enemy buildings. If it's not in there, so we'll get visible unit tags. Actually, I can do all of this. I like putting different where just to know like each check that I'm doing. It feels easier to read. Like this, I know now it's an enemy unit, so it's more details. So I know now it's an enemy building, and it's not in there. So these are all the presumed dead enemy buildings, and we'll kill them. We'll see if maybe I'll ask in the community if anybody has ever faced this or if they know why that happens. But we'll add a note. Alright, so there's that. So now if we go again, we shouldn't be seeing the glitch, although don't really like that part of the logic. I kind of hope that the dead units would fix like all the issues with units ever dying. As we can see, they're doing exactly their job. Doesn't seem to be any glitch. Okay, so that's it for today. In the future, maybe I'll make a video about it, or maybe I'll just code it and then do a video about the result. But the way we can use this ghost information is, one, to improve the regions tracker. So for example, well, the game is finished now, but we set a safety value on each region based on the units that we've seen in the region, and we make it decay based on like the last time we set the information. So now that we have ghosts, we can use that information instead of like just considering the score, and remember that some units were there. We can also, for detectors for example, some are static detectors, so like the missile turrets will always be there, so we can know like where the detection radius is, which is not true for mobile detectors like ravens. So now we can consider like, okay, we've seen the raven somewhere, so we can assume like this region might be detected, and eventually also we'll be able to like decide where to not go. For example, if we pushed into the natural and then we're attacked by siege tanks, we'll be able to remember that there's a danger area like around the tank, so that on the next push we'll maybe try to avoid that area if possible, and if it's not possible, maybe look for other options, and a bunch of stuff like this. So I'm super happy with the possibilities that this gives us, and thanks for watching this live coding session. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please tell me in the comments or anything that you would like me to improve. again, if this content is something that's interesting to you, please subscribe to be notified when I post new videos. I'll make more of these coding videos, and I'll also post updates on Sajuk. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching, guys. See you in the next one.